Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome from Bharata First. My name is Bhavna, and I'm a show host today for this show, FRP on the hot seat. In the beginning of this week, our team announced a couple of daily quiz challenges called the Big Picture Quiz Challenge. Our winners from our quiz challenge went on to compete in our Mega Quiz Challenge. Our winner from the Mega Quiz Challenge is Ramya Chandrasekaran, who is here with us today live. And that is why she has this opportunity to interview FRP on the hot seat. So, bringing in Ramya now. Hello, Ramya. Hi.
Hi, good evening, Bhavna.
Hi, Ramya. Can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. First of all, good evening to Frank, sir. I'm Ramya CS from the city of Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. I'm an engineering graduate with a short stint in technical sales and currently aspiring to be a civil servant. Being an avid learner, I constantly look for opportunity to enhance my knowledge and become a better human being. Uh, Using this only, I came across programs in RSTV, and from then onwards, I've become a regular viewer of Frank Rausen's discussions. It's not just the topics he picks, but his way of moderation as well as listening skills that has amazed me as well as influenced me. Hence, I feel it's a great privilege for me to directly interact and put across few questions to him.
Thank you, Ramya. I'm really glad you're joining us today. So, for our show, we don't have any rules as such. You get to ask FIP all the questions that you've always wanted to ask him. So, I would like to bring in Mr. Frankrausanpereira now so that we can start our show, FIP on the hot seat.
Thank you for the grand reveal. I hope it was as mysterious as I thought it would be. Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you, Ramya. Yeah, so I'm in the hot seat. It's your turn to ask the questions and I'll answer. Go ahead, the floor is yours. And
Ye-
congratulations. First and foremost, sorry, my bad. Congratulations for being the first winner of the mega quiz. I hope that you had a good time participating in the quiz and getting to where you are today as well. And I hope it has been worthwhile for you. Uh, before I before you ask the questions, I have a couple of questions for you. If you could tell me which which day did you win on? What was the big picture episode that you won? Was the day that you first won?
it was a Supreme Court collegium system discussion.
Oh, okay. Good discussion. Good to have a first woman winner, and the first winner has been a woman, so it's good, and I hope it's a first of many things to come. So go ahead, Ramya.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So first of all, my question to you is from the international relations as such. So the first question is, uh, there is in the global context, we see a rising regionalism and there is a declining multilateralism. And further, there are doubts which has been cast across the different global bodies and especially the United Nations. And even the COVID situation has faced a very mediocre effectiveness from all these global bodies. So what do you think will be the role of UN going forward? And I come to the basic question of Tharurian question, which is like more UN or less UN.
More UN or less UN? Interesting first question, I must say. Thank you for asking this. This issue of UN reforms is not something that is new. Has UN lost its utility? No, we need to have a body like the UN. We need to have multilateral bodies, because then what will happen is, if we don't have multilateral bodies, then we'll go into unilateralism, which is not good. And the UN has served a purpose in the past. Does it need reforms? It most certainly does. But unfortunately, for the time being, it seems like nations around the world, especially the P5, are only bothered about doing lip service. They're all saying, yes, we need to widen the scope, but nobody is actually doing anything about it. About how you should widen the scope of the UN. We need more Security Council members, and so on and so forth. But let me tell you something. It's more like an exclusive club. If you are part of an exclusive club where only you and your near and dear ones can go to that place, why would you want to allow somebody else at that high table? So that is the position where these P5 nations come from, and they do not want to really give anybody else a piece of the pie or a piece of the cake. This is where the situation is as far as the UN is concerned. So then the immediate follow-up question that anybody may ask is, why is it that we are wasting our breath with the UN? Why is it that we are doing so much with the UN? Let me give you an example. If a woodcutter has to cut a banyan tree or any other, fat tree, basically, all right, for whatever reason, I'm not propagating chopping down trees, but for whatever reason, this is just an example. In case you need to chop a tree, you cannot swipe it down with one blow of the axe. The woodcutter keeps striking at it in a particular angle and in a particular way, and over a period of time, and finally the mighty tree is felled. So the UN is like the big banyan tree, and we are the woodcutter, and we are chipping away one day at a time, one step at a time, and that's why we need to continue to speak about UN reforms, because if we don't speak about it, who will speak about it? There is talk of some kind of representation as far as Africa is concerned. The 50 nation African Union cannot come up with a consensus candidate as far as who their possible representative could be. The same is the case with South America. The same is the case with Japan and South Korea and some of these other Asian countries. So when you're stuck like that, India is probably the only country who can come forward and voice its opinion and is making its point of view heard. And that's what we are seeing as far as the UN is concerned. So yes, UN is required, but also UN reforms are required, and that's what we have been pushing for, and that's what we need to continue to push for. It's not a wasted attempt.
Okay. Hopefully, then our stint currently at the permanent UNSC will help for this aspect.
It will.
Okay.
It hopefully will, and it's a good thing. It's a step in the right direction, and the thing is, India has a place at least at the high table, and our voice can be heard, if not anything else, which
Agreed.
is a big positive.
Yeah. So going from that question, my second question is with respect to India's foreign relations. So India has given prominence to strategic autonomy, and we boast ourselves of balancing between powers, be it US or Russia or Israel or Iran. We are good at balancing things. So with the recent trend of new global order with Joe Biden getting elected, and there is going to be a normalcy return from the Trump era, and which is likely to escalate the tensions between US and Russia. So, and Russia is also having a rapprochement with China as well as Pakistan, as lately seen yesterday. So, in this light, how do you think India has to prepare itself to have a tightrope balance act between US and Russia? In short, to put Quad or Rick.
Okay, Quad or Rick? You see, we have to play the balancing act. You're right. It's a difficult time for Indian diplomats and Indian diplomacy, and the world is changing. And the world has changed. There are new fault lines. There are also new dimensions, and we have to change and be abreast with the times. And that's what we are doing. We are being nimble-footed. We are trying to, wade these difficult waters in a very difficult time in a very measured manner. And as far as India is concerned, there is only one aspect that we are concerned about, and only one aspect that we would like to talk about as far as India is concerned. That is, whatever happens, we will always put India first. And that has been one of the biggest strong points of India's foreign policy. And under this particular government, we've noticed over the last few years that they have ensured that India's interests are going to be safeguarded at all times. It has been one of the big talking points or big victory areas as far as the BJP government is concerned. They have done extremely well on the foreign policy front. On other fronts, they might have faltered. That is a discussion for another time. But someone who has been watching foreign policy and who has followed foreign policy from very close quarters over the years, I believe that this has been one of the biggest strengths and biggest plus points as far as India is concerned. There are difficult neighbors, there are challenging neighbors in terms of Pakistan, in terms of China. It's a reality we have to live with, right? And whether we like it or not, China is something that we have to deal with, we have to live with. Contrary to what some people may believe, that maybe we should go to war, that is not the right approach. That is not the real agenda as far as we are concerned. War is not going to get us anywhere. So we have to be careful about China. China is a tricky neighbor, is a far more challenging neighbor than Pakistan is. Pakistan is just a thorn in the flesh. China is the real challenge. And China is, Rick, yes, we have to continue engaging with Rick, because you can't say you're not going to talk to China. You can't survive without China, and China can't survive without us, because we too are a big market for China. So we have to play the balancing act. RIC is also important. Quad is also important. Whenever China, troubles us, whenever China pushes us to the wall, Quad is something that we can bring up at any point in time. And the Chinese are very concerned about the Quad. It's not like, they're not worried, or it's not something that is playing on their minds. India doesn't concern them too much, but what we can do with like-minded nations, what we can do with like-minded partners, is something that the Chinese are very, very wary and very, very concerned about. And that's something that I believe that we can leverage. Militarization of Quad is not too far away. It could happen sooner than we expect. It's because of Chinese aggression, especially in the Indo-Pacific. And this is something that all nations are very, very concerned about. China is a superpower. China is fast catching up, on where the United States is. And that is something that the US also is not very happy about. So wherever it is in our interest, wherever we can get the best, out of anything, we should put our hands there. And that is what we need to focus on, so that we can get the best out of any kind of situation.
So basically, it's like in foreign policy, no permanent friends and no permanent foes, but national interest that matters.
National, yeah, absolutely. And it's the same with all the nations. It's not just with India. All nations look at their national interests first, and the Israelis are prime example to that.
Okay, got it. So my third question is again from IR, and it's going to be from the trade perspective. So India is demanding for better market access with US and Europe. And we can see on the other hand, we are also pulling out of agreements like RCEP. So how do you think India, is it moving away from the principal dogmatism towards more realism in global trade perspective?
You're right. You have a very valid point there. It is, of course, very realistic and very pragmatic, if I can call it that. We've lost out by not having FTAs with Europe. We have lost out by not having FTAs with other nations. That has been a problem, right? And that is why we are looking at individual FTAs where we can have a bigger say. When you have China at the table anywhere, China is bound to grab the limelight, and that's a reality that we have to live with. So it is best that we keep China out of any of these kind of equations where our interests may be at stake, and then go forward with with FTAs, with specific FTAs that are in our interest. We have FTAs, as far, you spoke about RCEP, we have FTAs with ASEAN countries. So that is something that we need to strengthen. That is something that we need to work out, and which is beneficial for both our Look East policy, Act East policy. These policies that we've had over the years have not had the kind of traction that we would have liked to see in the past, but slowly it's picking pace. Slowly people are realizing and coming to terms with with China's gunboat diplomacy as well as debt trap diplomacy. All right, so that is something that people are very aware of nowadays, and they are trying to stay away from China. Prime example being Sri Lanka. When the Rajapakshes came to, and you being from Tamil Nadu have how Sri Lanka functions and how Sri Lanka works. But with all the trouble, with all the history that we've had with Sri Lanka, and especially with the Rajapakshe brothers, we expected ties to be far worse than what they were in the past with the Rajapakshe brothers this time around. But contrary to that, things have changed very differently. Oh, let me just, rookie mistake. I'm not the interviewer, I'm the interviewee today, and this is something that I have to deal with almost on a daily basis when I record shows, when some of my guests don't switch off their phone or put it on mute. So I'm guilty today, guilty as charged, made a rookie mistake. So yeah, where was I? Were you listening, Ramya? Sorry, yeah, I was talking about Sri
Yeah, you
Lanka
were
and the
talking about,
Rajapakshes
yes.
and the Rajapakshas. So yeah, so the Rajapakshas, we expected them to be a challenge, a big challenge, and someone who's so close to our borders, just a few nautical miles away. So that has not been the case, because even despite the Chinese using tactics like coercion, Chinese using tactics like whatever I don't want to name some of the tactics that they have used, but honey trapping, what and what not. They've done this in Nepal, they've done this elsewhere. Despite that, several leaders, especially in the neighborhood, are very wary of China, very concerned of what China may and can possibly do. And that's why they are looking for allies, they're looking at partners. But unfortunately, politicians are cut out of the same cloth everywhere. And and they've sold their souls to the devil. So it so happens that it becomes difficult for them to move away from China because of what they have taken from China. And this is something that we have to be wary of and deal with. But as far as trade is concerned, coming back to your point about trade, I believe that we need to be pragmatic, we need to be realistic, and we need to look at our own interests as far as trade is concerned. It's not just national interest, but it is, and from a security and strategic point of view, but also from an economic and trade point of view. Because if we have to take on China, I've been speaking so much about China because China is a problem, and if we have to really take on China the way we would like, or the way the people of this nation would like us to take on China, the only way we can do that if we become an economic superpower, if we grow as on the economic. And it's not like the potential is not there. India is a massive market. India has got the demographic dividend as well. So we need to get some things right if we have to get the economy on track. And once we get the economy on track, once we start matching up to China's economy at some point in time, we will do fantastically well. Just to give you an example, in the late 80s and early 90s, India's and China's per capita income was the same. Look at where China is today, look at where we are today. So it's not like we can't catch up. We can. The day we do, that is when we will actually stand face to face and and look China in the eye, and we can take China on all fronts.
So we have to bridge the asymmetry between India and China, basically.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. So my last question will be from the media perspective, since you have that background. So basically, it's said that Mahatma Gandhi once said that freedom of the press is precious privilege that no country can forgo. So even the 2020 World Press Freedom Index has stated that in the coming decade will be crucial for the future of journalism. So in this context, as journalists, what do you feel are the challenges existing for a free and truthful reporting? And how, as a society, we can ensure that this fourth pillar of democracy sustains its objective and principle?
So journalism at one point in time was considered to be a very noble profession. Job creation in our country has been a legacy issue, has been a problem right from the beginning. Somehow we have just not been able to create the number of jobs for the number of people. It has just not been proportionate. Even during our best economic days, even during times when we were growing at double-digit figures, not so anymore. The numbers have been downgraded ever since. But nonetheless, since we have grown, even at that time, we have not created the kind of jobs that we would have liked to. So in a situation like this, in a situation where the job market is so unstable, in a situation where privatization has taken place, in a situation where everyone is ambitious and everyone has several desires, several needs, several wants, and several luxuries, journalism also became just another job, just another way of a livelihood, just another way to earn your living and ensure that you get your comforts, get your luxuries, and get your daily bread as well. All right. So somewhere along the way, what happened was multinationals came into the picture, big business houses came to the picture, and media houses also started being run more like businesses and less like publications. So when is the media in a difficult space? Yes, it is in a difficult space. Can it change? Maybe yes, it can change. How can it change? Just like the police changes, just like the bureaucracy changes, just like the politicians change, so can the journalists also change. When a doctor can charge corporate fees, when a doctor can charge you 10 lakhs for a simple operation, shouldn't, this is just a question to ponder about. I'm not saying it's justified. I'm not saying it's justified. Shouldn't a journalist have the right to make his money, not through unscrupulous means, but get paid 1.5 lakhs, 2 lakhs, 2.5 lakhs, 3 lakhs, or whatever the person is getting paid? He too is doing a job. She too is doing a job. She too wants to take a vacation once in a year at the Taj or somewhere else. So how does that one do it? How does one do it? Right. So we have to look at it from the journalists also are human beings. When bureaucrats can shy away from their jobs, when politicians can shy away from their roles, why not journalists also, who are just human beings, part of the same society? That is one. I'm reiterating, I'm not justifying. Okay.
Yeah.
Second, we live in times where there is no scope for neutrality at all. You're either on the right or you're either on the left. If you're in the center, you will get it from the right and you will get it from the left, and you'll have nowhere to go. Again, I come back to the point that we are human beings. So how much of criticism will anybody take? Will one person take, or will one person like to go through? So you rather ride the tide and live a happy life than go through the struggles of being true to your profession. There are very few people who are true to their profession. I'm not discouraging anyone who would like to get into the media saying that it's all hard for you. You have to be smart and work your way through these problems, and only then you will survive, only then you can make it. So that is as far as journalism. Lots to change. I'm not saying there is it can't change. It can change. Just like how we would like to see so many changes in so many other different things, here too we can see change.
Okay. Because in this era of social media, and you have all the social networking sites which is bombarding us with news, the real journalism, or what we call it, the extreme of investigative journalism, that's all has been the reducing stint. So that's why this question propped up for me to ask with you.
Absolutely. Ramya, pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for talking to us. And, I really liked your questions. I thought there were some well thought out questions. I hope I did justice to your questions with my answers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ramya, for being on our show today. And thank you to FRP, sir, for giving us your time.
Thank
If
you.
anyone, yeah,
Yeah. Go ahead, Bhavna. Sorry.
yeah, if anyone else wants to participate and be on our show again, we'll have many more quizzes coming up. You can always subscribe to our channel and follow our other social media handles. And if you like what we do here at Bharata First and the content that we put out, you can also contribute by using our UPI ID in our description box. And have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.